Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kegel Show. My name is Don Agent. This episode is quite unique for me this week. It is my extreme pleasure to welcome someone very dear in my life that has known me for over 4 decades, since I was a young child. She was a phenomenal competitive player, coach, and a great mentor, Rita Buchan. Thank you for coming out, my dear.
Thanks for inviting me.
Making the drive over from St. Petersburg, Florida, my old stomping ground, as well as where I met you in the beginning. We had some wonderful times there. I mean, you and I actually met, I was about 9 or 10 years old, I figured, last night when I was kind of going back through it. And, you were just an incredible pillar in my life, as well as a lot of other coaches, the Dave O'Briens and Carol O'Briens, and Janie Harpers, and the people are very instrumental in making us grow. You were also a very top competitive female player, and you worked in the industry.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, it's, how did you get into bowling and why?
When I was dating my husband, we joined a league with a friend of his, and we just started bowling, and I'm competitive, and we enjoyed it. We weren't one of those Friday night beer leagues. We wanted to see how our scores would get, and we started bowling probably 40 years ago. I've been in bowling for 40, and I've had coaches and stuff, and I've tried to improve my game, and I liked working with the kids, and it's just a sport that is never going to die. It's always going to be there. It's just going to change. You just have to change with the change, but that's how I got in there.
Our youth program, I always felt I was very lucky in life. I mean, Crossroads Bowl, I mean, they just did a phenomenal job there. A shout out to Jeff and
Bojay, yeah.
William Bojay and the entire family and staff there for giving us a wonderful place to grow up in as a kid, and a safe environment. I mean, we bowled all over. I mean, a lot of the places that, when we were traveling to do different tournaments or events, I mean, the adults would chaperone us there too. So, some of the centers, what were some of your favorite centers going to on a consistent basis?
I think I've hit just about every bowling center in Florida. I love being home. I like being, it used to be Sunrise, Sunshine, Sunset.
Seminole.
Yep. And then I bowled over in Tampa at Crown Lanes. Bowled pretty much wherever there was a tournament. Every weekend there was a tournament. So if we weren't bowling a league, we were shooting tournaments. So we went everywhere. I liked any place that I bowled, pretty much I liked. So I can't complain, but I liked it more at home in St. Pete.
I really enjoyed Pinellas County. It was a great association. We had a lot of incredible talent there.
Yeah.
We had let's start with that. I mean, we had some phenomenal female talent. I always classified you as part of that elite group, along with, a list of names that I could pull out, but I'm going to kind of dump this into your court. What are some of the names that stick out for you the most that were really hardcore competitors, good friends, or people that you just went, wow?
Tina Perry, Christine Taylor. Christine Taylor was an animal. This
Phenomenal
girl, she had an elbow like a boy. She really did. I don't know how she kept her arm caught onto her. Darlene Milton was good. Who else did we have? Janie Harper, Donna Zubin, Beverly Ulrich, who's also a ball driller. She owns her own shop, and she was always secretary for the league.
She drilled my first bowling ball. She drilled my first bowling ball because I met both of you all about the same time. And I had actually asked if she'd come on the show, as you're aware, but she was tied up this week, so we're going to try to get her back on another one.
That's why. But she's definitely great. She's just one of the great ones. Gosh, there's so many bowlers to pick from. Sandy Story was a good bowler. If you get down to the younger kids, oh, help me out. There's so many.
There's too many just from
really
our area.
Really
I mean, how about let's jump over to the men's?
Okay, we had Rayot. We had you. We had my husband Ray, Matt Perry, Dempsey's, all the Campbell boys.
All the Campbells. Campbells are phenomenal.
Are just
James,
awesome.
Roger, and
Bill Hicks, Bill Zubin, and Drew Byerline come to mind. Keith Glasgow. I don't know if you met Keith. Keith is an awesome left-hand bowler. In the senior division, which Bill is too, just an awesome, phenomenal bowler. Anybody that came out of St. Pete was a good bowler because we were just like a pack. Everybody bowled together. You would see them all the time at the bowling alleys. They would stop by and talk to you and see how you were doing, whether they were bowling or not. They always had something nice to say. It was just a great experience back in the day, bowling.
80s were a great time. I mean, we'd get done bowling the league. You might bowl first shift, second shift, and then we shut down for 2 hours and bowl pot games.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what I remember growing up. There was just so much competitiveness.
Oh,
There was always
yeah.
action going on. There was
yeah.
always tournaments around the corner.
Yeah.
I looked up to a bunch of people out there at that time. Way too many to name. You named a lot of them. I'd throw in like Glenn Taylor
Oh,
and,
yeah, Lynn
and
Taylor.
Doug Beckwith
Yes.
and also Tom Milton and,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you know, a couple of those people. But growing up, the group that I became family and friends with, and we actually still stay in touch after all these years, not as much as we would like to, and part of that's my fault due to schedule, but Rob Breeze,
Yeah.
Colin Rader, Carmen Wright, Brian
yeah.
Davis, Jimmy
Yep.
Hicks, Joey O'Brien, just from the men's side or the boys' side when I competed or bowled as a team together. And you talk about tournaments, I mean, I remember us making our own tournaments
Oh,
where we
yeah.
had youth leaders, and y'all encouraged us to do that.
Yeah.
And we actually made these 15-game scratch marathons and
yeah.
put them together and basically marketed and promoted the whole thing. Some of the big competitors for me at that age group was Bobby Belmont's protege, John Henry, back
Yes,
in the day.
yes.
That kid was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Joey O'Brien, my doubles
Joey,
partner a lot of
yes,
times.
yeah.
Carmen Wright, my other doubles partner. So friends, but also competitors. Ray Lights too.
Yeah,
Ray Lights
Ray was in my college team.
And he was
awesome,
dead
and
accurate.
he's still bowling.
He could split boards. He was
He's
dead accurate.
awesome. Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to Glenn Forrester. He
Glenn
was on my
Forrester's
team.
another one.
Lori Peterson was on my team. Kathy, what was Kathy's name?
I was trying to remember this morning. I kept
Oh my
remembering
gosh.
Johnson because Tom
Yeah,
Johnson was
Kathy.
here.
Yeah,
She
Kathy
married.
Johnson, Tom Johnson.
She
yeah,
was
they
phenomenal.
were great bowlers.
Some of the other girls at Val Hatfield,
Yes.
Stephanie Fall
Yeah.
at that time, and obviously you
Sandy
brought up
Story.
Sandy Story in
Yeah.
the beginning. Let's talk tournaments now on your end. What were some of your favorites? I mean, you've bowled on a variety of levels. You've bowled some, back in that day, it would have been LPBT events. You've bowled Queens. You bowled, all across Florida. What are some of the ones that stand out for you that you enjoyed the most?
I got to say, match play, when I won match play, that was like my big deal because I had to bowl Darlene Milton, and it was a tough shot.
It was a tough tournament.
It really was a tough tournament, and luckily for me, it was really oily, and I could pick up the 10 pins, and Darlene just couldn't get the 10s. I mean, I thought I was going to go and she was going to shoot 300, 300, 300. But luckily I won that. I bowled the Queens. I got to bowl 3 pro tournaments, and I got to beat Dee Dee Davidson out of Nassau, which made me happy.
Too cool.
And I went to a regional in Milton, Florida, and missed the TV by 13 pins. In the last frame, I shot a 7-10, and that took me, I still cashed, but I missed the TV by 13 pins. But you know what? I made it there, so that's what counted. I was up there. So that to me it wasn't a loss, it was a win because I was there, I got to bowl, and I did okay. I represented myself, so I was happy with that.
And bowling across 40 years, I mean, you've been fortunate enough, or unfortunate, depending on how we look on it, with the way the era's changed.
Yeah.
But you've bowled. I mean, you bowled on lacquer. You bowled on
Wood.
Wood synthetics. The 80s. There are 3-4 things that stick out for me the most that were huge from a historical standpoint and game changing as far as bowling was concerned. Water-based lane finish was introduced, which increased friction and increased back-end performance. Obviously, the advent of urethane bowling balls is really hitting the scene, which also added to that, so it kind of doubled it. We also had, at that point in time, we had close to 8 million membership between ABC, WIBC, and YABA combined. We had an 8.5 on the Nielsen ratings in 1980, which superseded football, basketball, and golf at that time. But the biggest game changer for me, looking back, was that's also in the 80s when we introduced as an industry LDD, which we classified as limited distance dressing in my world, but a lot of bowlers, and we refer to this as short oil. You definitely were coming off some different types of conditions and surfaces, and short oil for most was pretty drastic. How did that affect your game, and was it good, bad, or indifferent?
Well, your ball just went faster at the end. It was so dry, it would catch it, and you just had to throw really hard. You had to stay down and really come through the shot. It depended on what type of ball you threw. That was a big change in people. People that bowled that didn't have a big knowledge on bowling they liked this certain ball that they bought, and they wanted to make that ball work, and they didn't want to, or maybe they couldn't afford to get a different ball, so they struggled. but I was fortunate enough that I could change my equipment, and my game was better. I liked it better when we had the longer oil because I could slow down. I like that better, but I mean, you have to adjust. That's about bowling. You know, we can't have the same shot every day because everybody's going to be shooting 300s, and that's great, but you want to earn it. You don't want it to be given to you.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel. I want to earn it. I want to say, okay, it doesn't have to look pretty, but as long as I shoot it, you know, but I want to earn it. So it didn't really, I don't know, we just kind of rolled with the punches. You know, when they changed a shot, everybody went and practiced. You know,
exactly
and
it.
you couldn't hit the shot, you practiced. If somebody was hitting it, you looked at what line they were playing, you moved over and you played their line. That's what you did. When you went to a tournament, you couldn't score. Where were they playing? Were they swinging it out? Were they going down and in? And you looked at that, and then you went back and you tried it. If you had the equipment, you could do it.
You observed your opponents.
You did.
And
You
you
did.
really embraced the environment.
You
And
did.
Going back to practice, we had a small chat about this earlier when you came in today, and you know, we could literally, as we delved into this, we could talk about it all day, but that's one thing that you don't see, and I don't see in the industry on a level that we were used to, where everyone practiced.
Yes.
Everyone came in to practice. You
Yep.
came in as a B mechanic running lanes at Crossroads for Larry. You know, I was having hey, you got to finish. I got to get them done for league because people wanted to practice before league.
Yeah.
And it was a normal thing. And, you know, there's a lot of different, I think, views on why people don't practice anymore, and potentially everyone's right to a degree. I mean, people's lives are busier nowadays,
Right.
work schedules are different. To me, on the lanesman standpoint, because of score escalation and how high the scoring is, a lot of times I look at it as, well, you know, for somebody that bowls once a week and is averaging 220 or above and not practicing, what benefit in their mind, if they're never going to go out and bowl competitive like you did, they are just going to bowl in league or what have you,
Yeah.
they're satisfied with that. But you know, there's so many great years I had and great experiences I had in a bowling center because I went and practiced, whether it
Right.
was social
Oh, yeah.
interaction, whether it was
Oh.
learning, bowling on burned out lanes, bowling on lanes that were fresh.
Before after the league, we would bowl, and all the oil had gone down, and they started to dry up, and it was ridiculous. But we would go in on Saturdays and Sundays, and we would shoot 15, 20 games a day. Get ready to leave, and somebody would come in, and we might shoot 15 or 20 more games. And then we might bowl the midnight tournament that night. You know, so we really were into bowling. The kids would come in. We knew the kids were safe. If they weren't bowling, they were playing the games. We knew where they were. And moms and dads would call me, go, yeah, they're here. So they felt comfortable.
Y'all
with it.
were our extended family.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly.
We kept an eye on you guys.
And
So.
you brought some memorabilia up.
I
I dug
did.
mine out. I, doing a flat throwback to 80s. I've got my red pearl axis weighted hammer, which is a heck of a ball. I actually preferred the blue pearl.
Yeah.
You brought something a little farther back, which
I
is very
did.
unique to history for us here. This is an undrilled green Manhattan. Actually has quite some value, and I'm going to try to help you get this moved through some of my contacts if
That
you're
sounds
ready,
good.
ready
Okay.
to part with that.
Yeah.
You know, let's talk professional bowling a little bit. You know, and it's always tough to pick one, obviously. What are a couple on the female side that you really, I mean, stood out for you, you looked up to, you wanted to be like, or you just were in awe of?
I loved Lisa Wagner. I bowled with her a few times, and she was just a sweetheart, as was Dee Dee Davidson.
Both good picks.
I loved them all. I liked Trish. We would go and watch them bowl. Janie Harper was on the Pro Tour. She shot.
Sure.
And she was just really, you know, they stood out to you. You just watched them. But, you know, because you knew them, it wasn't such a wow factor as it is to other people. It's like they were people that you knew that they talked to you, and the other guys are like getting their autograph, and you know, you sit and have a soda with those guys. You're like, you didn't
It's a
understand.
great feeling.
It was. It's like, I know those guys. So it was cool. It was. But there was phenomenal bowlers. I mean, Darlene Milton was a pro. She went on the tour.
Absolutely.
Darlene shot awesome. She really did.
Well, her husband, Tom, was what,
Tom
he's
was-
5-time
yes,
titleist or
yes,
something like that
yeah.
as well?
Barbie Batts, one of the girls on pro, they have Batts Bowling Center. Shirley Hintz used to have Hintz Bowling.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Shirley and her kids were awesome bowlers. So, I mean, I know a lot of wonderful bowlers. The memories, I mean, we could talk for hours on memories of people that we know that we bowled with, and we never get tired of talking
Who
about it.
impressed you on the male side?
I have to say, Pete Weber and Amaletta Monticello are and were my favorite bowlers. Pete is just a bad boy, and I love him for that. And Amaletta, between Pete and Amaletta, they would rip the covers off the balls. It would just, I just gasp every time they threw the ball. I really did. I just thought they were great. And there were other guys that were on there, but they were just the two that really stood out the most.
Never knew Amleto on a personal level like I do know Pete, but I'll tell you, I've always enjoyed watching Pete bowl.
Yeah, he's
and
a
I
showman.
and it's hard for me to make picks as well because now I do know a lot of those players out there. But he was, he was very versatile at what he could do
Yes.
when lanes broke down,
Yes.
and the
Oh,
angles
yeah.
that he could attack with his
Oh.
style. It was just amazing where he could, it wasn't all about hand. I mean, there'd be time where people had as much hand, but they couldn't get it through the front. He was able to get it through the front.
His elbow, he had the, what do you call it when they stick the needles in you?
Cortisone? or,
No, he had the, like they poke you to make.
Oh, acupuncture.
Yeah, he had acupuncture one time we went to bowl, and I was like, wow, because of his elbow.
Oh, wow.
And I'll tell you, somebody else that was really great in our area was Jason Couch, is Jason Couch.
I'm his biggest fan. We
Yes.
still see him constantly.
Yeah,
Fortunately,
and-
he comes down
and he
here.
lived in our
I
neighborhood.
know.
He bowled in our bowling centers. We knew his family. So I mean, how can you not give a shout out to the people that you know?
Yeah, Jason's one I got to get down on a show. We just haven't been able to
Yeah.
hook up because he works for
He's so
Ebonite
busy.
International and
Yeah.
he's on the road quite a bit, but he's literally an hour and a half away. I get to see him when he comes in here to help out with some of the kids' events.
You could have been a
that
pro
type of
bowler if you'd have followed it. But you know
Yeah.
what? You changed and went another direction, which is fine.
I
because
was
that's
no
who you
Jason
are.
Couch by any means.
No,
I
but
would
you
say.
could rip the ball.
I-
Tell them about your shoulder.
I had fun. Yeah, I ripped my shoulder part too, which is why I turn wrenches for a living. I'm on this side now, but
And what did we tell you when
Wouldn't-
you were a kid? We said, don't do that with your arm because it's gonna come back on you, and boom,
I
there it
didn't
is.
listen like most kids do.
But
so-
if you'd have used this magic little thing that
Blast
Tom
from
Milton
the past.
made,
This was a
yes.
tool that Tom Milton came out with. I love this when you brought it. And
Yeah.
I can't put it on a
I
finger.
know,
My
I
God, your
gave
fingers
some
are
weight,
so small,
I know, but
This
yeah.
used to go on the middle finger or the
No, I thought it was here.
on the ring.
No, it was
or
actually
it was
here.
on the
It was an
index
index
finger.
finger
And
to
it
give you
lifted the
lift.
ball
Yes,
off of there.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and
I've had that since time. I mean, you can tell it was used and worn, and I kept it, and I went, oh my gosh, this is a shout out to Tom Milton. This was so much fun.
I worked for him and Darlene when I was younger when they took over management at Crossroads. All right,
Yes.
we're gonna change it up even more.
Okay.
And then we'll go back to a couple last bowling things.
Okay.
You've got a pretty unique and pretty cool part-time job slash career.
Yeah, I
In
do.
fact, I'm going to pull a picture up because Rita actually does the zombie scene,
Yes.
and you have acted in
Yes.
a variety of things. And
Yes.
how cool is that? Tell us about that.
It's I worked at the airport, and I met a young lady that came through, and she was talking to me, and she says, "You're really fun. Can I put you on Facebook?" I go, "Yeah." And she said, "I'm an actress," and she showed me a little clip, and I went, "Oh, that's cool." And I said, "Well, if you ever need an old lady, call me." And I told my husband she was going to Facebook me. He goes, "Yeah, she's going to Facebook." And the next day, Tracy Rose is her name. She sent me a little thing, and she said, "Go here for a job as an extra." So I went, and they put me in, and it was in a movie called Waves by Dominic Smith. And then after that, I started getting little parts, and now this show is going to be a web series. It's Dawn and the Dead, 2017, by Rick Danford, and it's about a girl named Dawn, and Dawn dreams, and whatever she dreams, the zombies do. So we're going to be at Quaker State next month for a Halloween show. I offered to be their hag on a hog, but they didn't take me up on it. I thought that would be cool. So, I mean, they always have the pretty girls in the centerfold, and I go, why not me? Hag on a hog, but But and then I've done some other movies. I have a coach in Fort Lauderdale, and her name is Charlene Hum, and she's awesome. I love her. I'm also writing a book called Baby Z. I have a copyright it, and I'm getting ready to have it published. We're doing all that.
Make sure you get me an autographed one of those.
I will. But it's just something to do. It just shows you that if you retire and you get older, it doesn't mean that your world stops. Don't sit home on the couch. If you can't bowl, go to the bowling center and talk to your friends.
Exactly. Go hang out and at least go
hang out.
reminisce.
Get one of those greasy hamburgers. How many hamburgers did we ever eat at the bowling center?
Loved them. Some of the best in
Oh
the
my
world.
God, the best hot dogs. It was a great place to be. It still is.
Absolutely.
You know?
All right, let's go to a kind of a final question, bowling related. What, as a coach, as a competitor, and as a human being, what type of advice would you give our youth in today's game and or sport, depending on which side they're approaching?
When I started bowling, I had so many bad habits. I threw a full roller. Those of you that don't know what it is, the ball would run between your finger hole and your fingers. It would track there. And it was, back then that was a sin to be throwing a full roller. And I was very lucky. Tom Milton tried to help me. They put some braces on my arms, things like that. Luckily, Chuck Chapman changed how my ball was drilled with Bev Ulrich. And Chuck told me one thing when he was teaching me. He said, if you have a coach, listen to that coach. Do not go out and let 5 different people tell you how to bowl. If your shot isn't working that night, don't change your shot because somebody else tells you. Trust in your coach, because you're only going to mess up your game. And they might throw a different ball than you. It may be drilled differently. They may be able to throw harder. They might be able to swing it better. Just stay with your coach and trust them. And parents, please don't talk over the coaches. Give them a chance. That's what they're there for.
Excellent
And parents
piece of
are
advice.
terrible. We love you, but you come in and you mess us up because you bowl this way and we're teaching them that way, and you want your son or daughter to bowl your way, and it's not working. So let them have a coach and trust that coach.
I think that's very sound advice. I know, like I said, I mean, coaches were essential to my development, not only in the sport, but in the business, and you being a large portion of that. I'd like to give a shout out to everybody in Pinellas County. Hopefully get to see all of y'all very soon, or a large number of y'all next time I get through that area, which will hopefully be before the end of the year. Honey, that's a wrap. I can't thank you enough for coming
Thank
out,
you,
sweetie.
sweetheart,
We're
for
going to go
letting me
grab some lunch and
That
then go
sounds
have a
good.
nice evening together.
That sounds good.
You, me, and the wife, and reminisce
Yeah.
about old
Oh,
times.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, keep those wrenches turning. Have a wonderful day.